Hypersonic weapons aren't just faster missiles. They are rewriting the rules of modern warfare in ways most people don't fully understand yet. For decades, missile defense, early warning systems, and deterrence theory kept major wars from spiraling out of control. Hypersonics quietly break all three. They shrink decision time, bypass defenses, and force nations to consider striking first instead of responding. In this video, we're going to break down what hypersonic weapons really are, why nobody can reliably stop them, and how they may fundamentally change how future wars start and end. Before we dive in, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment below on which weapon system you want covered next. For most of modern military history, speed has been one of the most decisive advantages on the battlefield. From cavalry charges to jet aircraft to intercontinental ballistic missiles, whoever could move faster usually gained the upper hand. But hypersonic weapons represent something different. They are not just faster versions of existing missiles. They fundamentally change how detection, interception, and decision-making work in war. To understand why hypersonic weapons are so destabilizing, you first need to understand what the word hypersonic actually means in military terms. Hypersonic refers to speeds above Mach 5, or 5 times the speed of sound. At sea level, that's roughly 3,800 miles per hour, and even faster at higher altitudes. At these speeds, physics stops being intuitive. Air behaves differently. Heat becomes a dominant problem, and traditional tracking and interception systems start to fail. There are two main categories of hypersonic weapons. The first is hypersonic glide vehicles. These weapons are launched on top of a ballistic missile, just like a traditional ICBM or IRBM. But instead of following a predictable ballistic arc, the glide vehicle separates and re-enters the atmosphere. Once inside the atmosphere, it skips, glides, and maneuvers toward its target at hypersonic speed. The second category is hypersonic cruise missiles. These are powered throughout their flight by advanced engines known as scramjets. Unlike traditional cruise missiles, which fly slower and at lower altitudes, hypersonic cruise missiles operate at extreme speeds while still maneuvering aggressively. Both types share the same dangerous characteristics. They fly extremely fast. They maneuver unpredictably. And they operate in altitude bands that traditional defenses struggle to cover. This combination is what makes hypersonic weapons so hard to stop. Modern missile defense systems are built around prediction. Radar detects a launch. Computers calculate the trajectory. Interceptors are launched to meet the missile at a calculated intercept point. This works reasonably well against ballistic missiles because ballistic missiles are predictable. Once they burn out, physics largely determines where they will go. Hypersonic weapons break that assumption entirely. Because they maneuver during flight, their path cannot be reliably predicted. Every course correction forces defensive systems to recalculate. At hypersonic speeds, there is simply not enough time to do that repeatedly. Even small maneuvers create massive errors in interception calculations. This creates a second problem that is just as serious as speed: detection. Most early warning systems are designed to track objects either in space or deep in the atmosphere. Hypersonic weapons live in the gap between those two layers. They often fly too low to be tracked reliably by space-based infrared sensors. At the same time, they fly too high and too fast for many ground-based radars to maintain consistent tracking. This creates blind spots in global defense networks. Blind spots mean uncertainty, and uncertainty is dangerous in nuclear-armed environments. Another critical issue is heat. Hypersonic weapons generate extreme temperatures due to atmospheric friction. This heat creates plasma around the vehicle. Plasma can interfere with radar tracking and communications. In some cases, it can even mask the weapon's exact shape and orientation. From a defender's perspective, this turns an already difficult problem into a nightmare. You may know something is coming, but you don't know exactly where it is. You don't know where it will go next. And you don't know if you have enough time to react. This brings us to the most destabilizing aspect of hypersonic weapons: decision time. During the Cold War, leaders often had 20 to 30 minutes to assess a missile launch. That time allowed for verification, consultation, and controlled escalation. Hypersonic weapons compress that window dramatically. In some scenarios, decision time could drop to under 10 minutes. In regional conflicts, it could be even shorter. This creates enormous pressure on political and military leaders. Under extreme time constraints, the risk of miscalculation skyrockets. False alarms become more dangerous. Ambiguous launches become harder to interpret. And the temptation to adopt a use-it-or-lose-it mindset grows stronger. This is why hypersonic weapons are not just a tactical issue. They are a strategic stability issue. Every major military power understands this. That is why the United States, China, and Russia have all invested heavily in hypersonic programs. China has focused on integrating hypersonic glide vehicles into its regional strike capabilities. This allows it to threaten naval forces, regional bases, and high-value targets with little warning. Russia has emphasized strategic hypersonic systems designed to bypass missile defenses entirely. These weapons are intended to ensure that deterrence holds even as missile defense improves. The United States has taken a more cautious approach. Rather than rushing a single system into service, it has focused on developing multiple hypersonic platforms across the Army, Navy, and Air Force. The goal is flexibility and survivability rather than a single silver bullet. But no matter who deploys them first or fastest, the underlying problem remains the same. Defense is lagging far behind offense. There is currently no reliable global layered defense against hypersonic weapons. Some concepts exist: space-based tracking layers, advanced sensors, new interceptor designs. But these systems are expensive, complex, and years away from full deployment. In the meantime, hypersonic weapons are already entering service. This imbalance creates a dangerous incentive structure. If offense dominates defense, striking first becomes more attractive. If warning times shrink, escalation becomes faster. If defenses are unreliable, deterrence becomes fragile. This does not mean hypersonic weapons guarantee war, but they do increase the risk that wars start faster and escalate further than intended. They push military planning away from restraint and toward speed. They reward preemption over reaction. And they compress human judgment into windows measured in minutes instead of hours. In the long term, hypersonic weapons may force a complete rethink of global security architecture. New arms control frameworks may become necessary. New detection networks will have to be built, and doctrines that assume slow escalation may no longer apply. For now, hypersonic weapons sit at the edge of a new era in warfare, an era where speed dominates defense, where prediction fails, and where the margin for error is dangerously thin. Whether this leads to greater deterrence or greater instability will depend on how nations adapt. But one thing is already clear: hypersonic weapons are not the future anymore. They are here,